every night is a loose one. And every flight, you know that I put the crew on. You say that I drop top, well then tell me what you've done. Still in my winning phase, yeah, I've been away, are you entertained?
It guided me, that's what I'm constantly summoning. I love the climb, I don't care where the summit is. Funny when people be saying I peaked, retired, my parents, they live at the beach.
Welcome back to another episode of the Grind and Shine Project. My name is Anthony Abbruzzese. It's my brother Nick Abbruzzese, and today we're going to be talking about the power of building a team and why that's important within anything you do if you want to go far. I think it's obviously been repeated a million times, but like if you want to go fast, the saying is if you want to go fast, you go alone, but if you want to go far, you go together. And it's so poignant for everything that we have been seeing in our business growth over the last, I don't even know how many years now. It's the more and more quality people we add to the team and the more and more quality people we attract to the team. It's been so much better for all parties involved. It's just been incredible to see the growth of people on our team, people stepping up, people filling voids that we didn't even know we had. It's just been, it's awesome. And I think it comes down to, a lot of leadership.
Yeah, I was just going to say, by us taking the first steps towards actively trying to improve our leadership through our actions, through reading, through podcasts, all the stuff we always talk about, and then leading by example has really allowed our guys to grow up and blossom and become leaders that they weren't in a short time ago. So I think that's the difference. I'm just looking here, between having employees and having an elite team. To me, an elite team represents individual leaders within the company. So like, instead of just looking to clock in and punch in 9 to 5, an elite team to me represents doing whatever it takes in order to get the job done. And right. I feel like we've made a big swing getting away from just clock in mentality, because me and you both had that when we first started out. Mm-hmm. It wasn't for the last couple of years that we really have made tremendous switches to our mindsets. But we were guilty of just like clocking in, looking to just get the job done for that day and then going home and not really thinking about the next day or two. So once we made that first step to, developing our leadership skills and mindset, it really trickled down to the guys. And we could definitely see an improvement with the guys, with themselves holding themselves accountable. The jobs are coming out better.
I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting to see people because everybody needs some kind of leadership. Even leaders need a leader, whether it's a spiritual mentor or something like that. You have to have somebody that you can look up to and have like a kind of ideal that you reach towards. And once we found those people in our lives, we were able to, I guess, I would say, I don't want to say recreate ourselves, but like we were able to develop in a way that allowed us to see the potential that we could become and as leaders. And that's what we needed to do. We needed to step into the role that we've always had in front of us, but never wanted to, I guess, get into, because we had that mindset in the beginning of just getting the job done, going there, grinding the floor, doing whatever we got to do, get in, get done, beat the traffic. And then that's it, but now once we've created the mindset of let's develop people, let's attract people to become better, everything changes. Work doesn't feel like a slog anymore, because you're in it to make people better and bring the entire team forward, and really push the envelope on how much you can, really do. because that's what really I think has changed for us. We've really pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed and exceeded whatever we thought that we would, could do even a few short years ago. And I think that, again, it's all through leadership.
Yeah, and I think one thing Dad always instilled was he had natural leadership, as we read and learn from military leaders and the best leaders of the world. I could see resemblance in what Dad was doing naturally to what they say. Just fine tuning it and adding to it, which is totally fine. But so we saw that firsthand.
We did.
Dad's leadership, what he was able to instill, not only us but even the guys on a day-to-day basis. But also, to piggyback off of that, is your team follows what you do, not what you say. Dad would be the first one to jump in and grab a shovel, grab a broom, whatever it takes. He's getting older, so his knees hurt a little bit more, his back hurts a little more. He needs to take a little bit more leave.
Complaining, but still jumps in there.
Maybe we need an Aleve sponsorship one day. That'd help Dad out. But he always led by example, and if he told the guys like, hey, this is the situation we're up against here with a delivery, you have to shoulder carry 55-pound bags of cement up 2 flights of stairs. It sucks, but we have no choice. So that or no work. So he'd be the first one to say, put one on my shoulder, let's go. So I think the guys seeing and then us and him be able to say what needs to get done and then actually do what needs to get done as well. It really shows them, an example of leading from the front, and that's always in my mind, honestly. Like when I go in the warehouse and I see a piece of garbage on the floor, my initial gut reaction is to just like walk past it, and then I always think of like Andy, and I usually curse him out when when I walk past it. But then I turn around and I pick up the piece of garbage because I know it's gonna train my detail muscle, and it's going to foster me to pay attention to areas that I normally wouldn't have by just continuously picking up the small little details that I would normally leave out. But it also shows the guys like, hey, look, if they're telling us to do it and they're following through and then doing it themselves, they're not full of shit. They're living to what they say tell us to do.
Right. And I think another thing is always especially at this point, being that we just really made this kind of transition, was everybody knows that we would do whatever needs to get done, and now we're just taking the next step in. And I think that's like a natural evolutionary part of the journey, is especially if you're in construction, at some point you're as the owner, as a manager, whatever, however you want to title yourself, there's going to come a point where you're in the field working a lot, and then you're going to transition to be out of the field in order to continue to develop leaders and continue to grow the business, because you can only grow so much by using your hands and working every single day. You're going to end up, not developing a team. You can develop a team. I'm not going to say you can't. We did it, but it's not to the level that we're able to do it now. And it's just, there has to be some kind of mindset shift, and showing the guys that you're able to do this stuff with your hands, and then transitioning into the field, into the office more, growing the company, I think is also a vital part, because they saw that what you're doing with your hands, and now they need to show, you need to show them that you could take care of them and constantly bring in the business while giving them more opportunities to develop and grow, so they could become the foreman, the manager, the site supervisor, the whatever it is. And I think that, you being able to, like us, when all the stuff that we try to educate ourselves on, we've seen character traits, and tell me if you agree with this, like we see character traits in people that we like, and that we want to show that, hey, you're actually able to do this position of leadership, and you could do it, man. Like, just step up and try. Just get their toes dipped in the water a little bit, and then they can, show what they're capable of. I
Yeah.
think we've seen that time and time again with our guys.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know, we could talk about how, like, not just giving guys the answers has
Yeah.
really helped us out. One thing we've read is just like, when someone comes to us with a question, what do we say? What do you think?
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think
Yeah.
we should do? That one simple question has really helped the business tremendously, because it's allowing people to come up with solutions. It's allowing people to grow and think outside the box. And then when they come up with these solutions, even if they're wrong, unless they're like outrageously wrong and we step in, but even if they're slightly wrong, we'll still let them run with it. Because we've made that, like, we might have made that mistake in the past, and we wouldn't want to rob that person of that learning experience by just saying, don't do that because X, Y, and Z reasons. Again, unless it's like horribly wrong, that's when we'll step in. But, if it's just a minor delay, by allowing them to come up with the solution, us giving them the green light on it when they come to us for advice and opinions, it gives them, and I know it did for us when Dad would do it to us, so I'm speaking from experience, more ownership on the situation.
Buy-in.
More buy-in, yeah. I know when Dad would just let us, run with our first couple of jobs, we wanted to make sure that we saw that through to the best of our abilities, because ultimately we were calling the shots, we were involved. But I guess there could be a tendency of, if someone just tells you what to do and you follow that plan and do it and it doesn't work out, there's maybe thoughts of like, well, I just followed what you told me what to do. I don't know. It's on you.
Yeah, that you don't want. Yeah.
So we've really seen some guys grow. I think a combination of that and just honestly, guys have just been getting older and maturing. We have a younger crew. I would say median age is probably around 30,
Yeah.
35 maybe. But there's some, sprinkled in there that are in their 20s. And those guys have really matured in the last couple of years. I think what really happens is, once you start getting bills in your life, the lack of care for your job, like, goes out the window a little bit, if that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense, but like, once you start getting bills, whether it's rent, cell phone, car, house, kids, you start putting a little bit more effort towards what you do on a daily basis, because of that responsibility that's on your shoulders every single day, and mouths to feed and bills to pay.
Yeah, I think it's becoming selfless. And now how do you develop that into people prior to them having to feel the weight of all of that? And I think that we got on the cusp of that right when we started developing ourselves. And I would say that, the one thing that I want to piggyback on for what you said before was what do you think? And I think that making people think, because that's what Dad did that with us, because he had to. Like, we had to a point where it was just, we couldn't follow his instruction anymore, and it was just too many jobs going on, and we had to do it. So the other thing that I like to say is, come to me with if you have a problem, you have to come to either of us with 3 solutions. And I also let people know that I do that when I go to my brother for something, or my dad with something, and be like, hey, here's the problem. And I just don't come there and be like, here's the problem, and that's it. We come to each other and say, here's the problem. I think that we could do this, that, or the other thing, A, B, or C. And then we talk about it. We have like a 20-minute conversation. So it's not like you do that, you just say that just to be lazy as the leader. You want to do that to
Provide value.
And make sure people are thinking and doing what they need to be doing, and showing that you actually do that too. Like, if I ever came to someone on our team, I would say like, hey, here's a problem that I'm coming up with that I see. I think that these are 2 or 3 valuable solutions to this, but I don't know which one you want to go with, or let's discuss this. Let's come up with this as a team. And I think that also comes down to having the right attitude of people and character traits of people on your team. You don't want somebody who's like, for lack of a better term, you don't necessarily want a whole team of Rambos on your team.
Yeah.
You want a team of cooperative, elite performers that are able to execute to their top ability together as a team. You don't want like this one super soldier running off and doing their own thing all the time, because then it's not gonna foster that team that you really want.
Yeah, and I think, like, I don't even want to say as business owners, as leaders in any position or company that a leader might find themselves, when it comes to training or handing off a task to another member of their team, and because I can speak from experience with this, and I guess this is probably just ego, but your initial gut reaction is, I'll just do it myself because I could do it faster, or I could do it better, and I won't have to double check their work after it. I'll just do it myself. But there comes a point in time where if you just do everything yourself, you just, what is it? You own a job or something?
You basically, that's what I was saying before. Like if you're in the field all the time doing everything with your hands, you own a job.
Yeah. So just this week, I was able to pass off some tasks to our project manager, which has been great. It's a small, mundane task, but it relieved so much weight and pressure off my shoulders. And initially, I was like, no, I'll just do it myself because it's confusing. And I'm like, but
You're thinking it's confusing.
I'm thinking it's confusing.
Yeah.
But then I sat back and I thought to myself, well, I was able to learn it. What am I, Einstein? I'm not anything special. Like, if I'm able to learn it, it's obviously really easy to be taught. And literally, Pete picked it up in like 2 minutes. So,
oh my God, it's so confusing. I don't know how anybody could do this.
Yeah, I'm just
2 minutes later. I got it.
I guess he's a real brainiac to keep up with me. I don't know. So, and I was talking about this with one of our friends last week or earlier this week. Is I heard this from Gary. Is everybody, as business owners or leaders, you think like, nobody could do it as good as me or as fast as me. That's why, I'm in this position or whatever. But, when you're trying to scale, you can't be on 5 or 10 or whatever, 2 different projects at the same time, giving it your 100% effort. So if you can train someone or people to be within 80 to 90% of your 100% effort, but you could do that on a scale, and really grow it, you'll be able to accomplish so much more, because your 100% effort, maybe you're tapped out at 2 projects at the same time, where if you have 4 crews hitting 88% of your 100% effort, now you're talking. Now you could do, 6 jobs even potentially. So I think, just getting the ego out of the way, I know that's always a big thing. I try and remind myself of is like, even with this simple task with Pete, is like, that's just my ego talking. Let me just humble myself. I'm not that special. I'm also, to reset my mental framework, I try and not put myself down and say I'm dumb, because I don't want to do that at the same time. But if one person is able to learn and be taught something, it's repeatable to other people. And I think, we, in trying to keep that mindset in the last couple of years, is, again, another key thing that's really helped us is like, we're not that special. Our guys can do it. They could even do it better than us, which is
yeah, without a doubt.
great. I mean, that's what I hope for. I don't need to be the best in the company at everything. I like, again, not to talk about Gary too much, but what he says is like, you need to be dangerous enough in all the topics to understand when people are doing a good job, when people are doing a bad job. But if you're the single best person across the board in your company, I feel like you're messing up.
Yeah, and then I think tying all of this together is once you have all of these standards and these things set out ahead of you that you're trying to hold for yourself, if you're seeing all of these top performers and top leaders being developed within your company or within your team, you need to also hold the line and hold the standard that and create a system of accountability so that your knowledge base on everything can be put to use, and make sure that people are doing what they're supposed to be doing and not just like, just checking the boxes, doing whatever. Because then if you have like a high performing team and there's one person on it that's like not really that's just like checking the boxes or what it seems like is doing a good job, then you might let it slip past you that they're actually totally ruining your culture.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the most important part of all this. Once you get a system in place to create and develop new leaders and identify who they might be so that they could execute and perform really, really well, you need to make sure that everybody's being held accountable.
Yeah. And another thing I love, and it's always stuck with me since I heard it, is people always say, well, what if I train this person, build them up to be this machine, and then they leave and go do something else or go do their own thing. And then the alternative answer to that is, what if you don't build them and they stay? So like,
you create a train wreck.
Yeah, like building someone up or a team up to be the best that they could be is only going to improve everything, that person, the company, all around. And if they leave, okay, good for them. I mean, that's that's their decision, and they have drives and ambition, which is what you would want, versus them not growing as leaders and trying to improve, and then staying in your company, and then you having C and D players all around.
Right.
So, I think that's something that always sticks out in the back of my mind is like, we need to constantly try and grow and develop leaders within our company, and if they leave and go on to do better things, kudos, great for them. But it's much better than the alternative of not growing and trying to develop leaders and having them stay within the company and just owning a job.
Well, yeah, I think that's I think in closing we could say that you're if you don't evaluate your team correctly, they could become a liability. But if you evaluate your team correctly and see whose strengths can be placed at certain places, then they will become your biggest asset, and you could be an asset to them as well in order to develop a company that allows them to want to show up every day, provide for their families in a great, in a successful manner, and just be happy spending however many hours a day at. So I think for me, that's all I got on that.
Yeah. Let us know what you guys think in the comments. Share, like this episode if you got any value out of it. If you have any advice for us, please, we're all ears. We're always looking to learn and improve. And just, feel free to, I guess, if there's a certain topics anybody wants us to talk about and touch on that might be relevant to all of our, where we're at in life and journeys, let us know. We're always open to suggestions. So thanks, guys.
Thanks.